Welcome, bonjour, hello, good day, zdravo, hola.
Welcome to the Yoga Health Coaching Podcast, a global collaborative conversation about our collective evolution.
We're into the habits for you and the rest of humanity to thrive. You'll hear what's working and what's not on our journeys as coaches, guiding peeps into the habits of thrive. Based on Ayurveda, based on the wisdom of yogis and yoginis, intertwined with the reality of modern life.
We'll also rap about our wellness coaching careers. We'll bring in outside experts to guide our own quests in our personal and pro-thriver journeys. Join us by the Vitamix. We might get loud. We will definitely get juicy.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Michele Colon, and today I am interviewing Grace Edison. We are both yoga health coaches in the Yoga Healer family, and I really just want to jump right in and ask Grace, how did you really get started in the work that you're doing with the yoga health coaching?
Yeah, so I live in British Columbia, Canada, and I had moved from southern BC, where I was living in Kelowna with my family, and I moved to northern British Columbia. And I had, just before I moved, I had taken my yoga teacher training, and mostly for personal reasons. I wasn't sure how many yoga teachers were here because it's a really small town, like 10,000 people small. And I thought, well, I'll take my yoga teacher training and then I can be my own yoga teacher. And when I got here, I decided to kind of start teaching a little bit. And then eventually it turned into owning a yoga studio, but I was still working a full-time job. And so as we do, right? Most of us, it's like, how many things can I add to my plate? All of the things. And about a year after we moved to Terrace, where I live now, my dad passed away quite suddenly. He was misdiagnosed. He was told that he had pneumonia, and he actually had a very rare aggressive type of lymphoma. And within 10 days of finding out that he was sick, he passed in the ICU. No, is ICU the right word? The intense, yeah. The critical care, basically. He went in and he didn't come out, and it was traumatic. It was really devastating. And because I have a history of pretty severe depression, this was a big tipping point for me. And I went through a really hard time. I gained an enormous amount of weight and was just kind of like eating and sleeping and maybe making it to work sometimes. And I found, I didn't find my yoga teacher, Donna Skoglund, was in the yoga health coaching course, and she was doing her first pilot, and she reached out to me. And so I took her 10-week program, and with some resistance because I'm fairly rebellious. It was like, I have that, you're not going to tell me what to do, right? I think a lot of us have that, or when I bring it up, people are always like, oh, I have that too.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And she was just, it was incredible. And I one of the things, and I don't know how she worded it, but it was almost this sort of try it and prove me wrong, let's do it and see, do it and let me know. And if it doesn't work, yeah, okay, cool. But it was that diffused the rebelliousness in me. So I ended up taking her course. We can talk more about what happened through that process, but ended up in yoga health coaching because after about maybe 6 months post taking her course, there was such a huge transformation in me that people, when you talk to a dog and they kind of cock their head back and forth. Do you know what I'm talking about? And they're kind of
looking at you.
Yeah. They can't figure out what's up. I would run into people at the grocery store and they would just do that. They would just move their head back and forth, be like, you look different. There's something different about you. And I was losing weight. It was just it was kind of just coming off. And they weren't even saying that though. They weren't like, oh, you look like you've lost weight. They were couldn't figure it out. They're like, what's that? What's something? There's something different about you. And that's how I ended up in yoga health coaching, was because people were like, oh, well, are you going to teach it? What is it? And so it was sort of that full on, it wasn't even a nudge. It was a full on push. And I started in January 2016. And so here I am.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah. It's when people start asking you to teach what you've learned that that you're on the right path too.
Exactly. Well, when they can see it, when they can see that
Yeah.
you've put it into, like, that you're living it, I think. And then I was always the kind of person, like, my whole life who, like, I was pushy with information. Like, I'd learn something and I'd be like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then I'd go out and tell everyone about it, even though I wasn't living it myself. It always came from this, like, like this intellectual, like, heady place, as opposed to people saying, whoa, you seem different. You look different. You feel different. Like, there was a different quality of like energy or vibration, right? When people were around me, there was this, like, they could see there was a clarity in my eyes, there was a groundedness, just something totally different from whatever experience they were having with me prior to, learning and applying the habits.
Yeah, I get that too. I get that from my patients, and I've been practicing medicine for years. And so I have some of the same patients for 10 or 15 years. And over the last couple of years since I've been doing this, I always get that from them. Like, you look younger. Like,
Yeah.
you're older, but you're starting to look younger every time I see you.
Oh, it's
So
true. It's true about you for sure. Like, I've noticed even from when we met last summer, and I've been, like, following you obviously and, like, seeing your pictures, and you look amazing. Like,
Aw.
it's inspiring, right? It's like, yes, we are doing this.
We are.
It's working.
And for me, like, I'm 48, so I've
You are
lost
not. Are you really? Oh
I
my God.
am.
I
And
would not have
since
guessed that.
since I started with yoga health coaching and going through the 10 habits, I've lost 20 pounds
Nice. That's
pretty
awesome.
easily.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a struggle. And I know that you have such an amazing weight loss story too that we're going to get into, but it just kind of falls off, like you said, and people want to know more about it.
Well, and the thing about, like, whenever I try to tell people, like, it wasn't, it's not a story of deprivation or magic pills or whatever. It's kind of like when we say it falls off, that's what people immediately start to think, maybe that there was some magic potion, or, like, people will be like, are you on supplements? Did you sign up for some multi-level? Like, are you on some drink? Or, like, what are you doing? It's like, actually, no, like, none of that. So, and I had done, I've had with bipolar depression, there was always this, like, pulsation between, like, mania where I'd lose a ton of weight, and then I would go into the opposite end of the spectrum of that, like, kind of sedentary, more lethargic state of depression, and then I would gain a ton of weight. So from the time I was in high school, I had this like 50-pound in and out relationship with my body, where it was like, and I'm 5'3", so 50 pounds is a lot. I don't know if people can, like, get that, like, imagery in their minds, but I'm short. And 50 pounds, like, I look like a different person, right? Like, I have many chins, and I have big shoulders naturally, and I do carry a lot of muscle mass. So you throw 50 pounds on top of that, and it's just like, I was looking way older than I was. And I'm 34, and I had people, thinking I was probably in my late 40s, which was, like, over 10 years from where I, like, truly am. And I probably look younger now than I did when I was in my 20s. Like, when I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh, crazy. So
It is crazy. Yeah. So let's get into your weight loss story and, how you transformed yourself losing 50 pounds, which is amazing.
yeah, well, it's kind of crazy. Sometimes I'm like, is that, like, did that actually happen? But I just went through and got rid of a whole bunch of clothes from my closet, because I was kind of like, that feeling of, oh, I don't want to get rid of this stuff because maybe I'll have to fit back into it. It's been 2 years now since I started Body Thrive. I'm actually a little over 50 pounds. I think I'm heading closer to, like, I was at, like, 55. I'm getting maybe closer to 60, and healthy. Like, I'm not gaunt, right? Like, I don't look like, oh, too, like I don't know. I don't want to say too skinny, because that's not what I mean, but, like, thinner than my body naturally wants to be, let's say. And so I had tried a lot of, like, I've done every diet you can possibly think of. Like, name one, I've done it. South Beach Zone, Eat Right for Your Blood Type, like, all of them, paleo, and and a lot of cleanses. And I would go through periods of time where, like, I could do it, I could rock it, I could nail it, and I would feel amazing. And then I would something would happen. I would get out of balance, or life circumstances. I would get, and I would get thrown back into that opposite end of the depression. And then the weight would just start to creep back on. I shouldn't even say creep. Like, it would come on like a freight train within a couple months, really and truly. Like, after my dad passed away, it was probably 3 or 4 months, and the 50 pounds was back. And so with the 10 habits, I found that like the body rhythms, right? Like getting in sync with the earth rhythms and listening to what my body had to say and getting proper rest. So the first 2 habits honestly had the most impact for me, like earlier, lighter dinner and early to bed. I was eating really late and really heavy and staying up too late. And I have found that even when I've eaten more than I need to in a day, if I can get my butt to bed early and allow for that like deep rest and restore, I like the weight just doesn't, it's not, it doesn't seem to re-find me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like what I gained, I think what I gained from the 10 habits for me was really being able to listen. So I think I was on a call or maybe a podcast with Kate at one point in time where I was talking about, I was probably eating like 3 to 4 times the amount of food I needed to eat. And I really had no idea what it even felt like to be hungry. There was a lot of emotional eating for me, and quite honestly, eating to, almost eating for like self-harm, because emotionally speaking, I was in so much pain that it was easier for me to feel physically ill, or physically sick from eating too much, but I had no idea that was going on. And so what I gained from taking the course the first time was like getting really clear. And I didn't even make a huge amount of change. Like I always say to people that I really stuck with like the first 3 habits, the first 2 go arounds. I was like just trying to nail the bedtime, like the evening habits, and then make my way into like getting up in the morning and having, like drinking water and being able to have a decent bowel movement. Like that was it for me. I was like, these are the 3 that I need to work on. And there was something else I was going to say there. Jog my memory. Where was I going with that?
Just the first 3 habits are, basically where you had to stick with.
Well, and it was building that awareness, right? Like, I think that with those evening habits, I think the evening is the hardest time for everybody because it's when we start to slow down, right? Like, we're busy all day long. We didn't really have to sit with our feelings. We didn't really have to think about all the things that kind of, cause worry or have us feeling uncertain. And then the evening comes and things slow down and we're like, oh, yeah, all of those things I didn't feel throughout the day. And I was finding myself in the kitchen, like with food in my mouth going, how the heck did I get here? And what happened in those, like with focusing on the evening, was I was able to create an awareness of, I'm not hungry. Why am I eating? There was a lot of inquiry, right? And that's a big part of like what Kate teaches, is that inquiry process. And that was huge for me in terms of getting really clear on why was I eating, what was I eating, and when was I eating? And so I didn't really even focus on like changing my diet so much, right? Like what I was putting in my mouth, but it was like, why am I eating? Am I even hungry? Or do I have some feelings I maybe need to feel? And like what time of day? Because I wasn't having like that decent sized lunch, right? In that time of day when we are most able to digest, we have the strongest digestibility. I was waiting until the evening and then like completely stuffing my face just so that I could like bring my energy level down. I wasn't grounded, right? I had no grounding. And so just learning about sort of like, it's like what makes us tick, or for me, it was like what makes me eat. Like, what is the driving force here? And Kate saying, talking about like the pie hole, our mouth as a pie hole, that really like got me thinking, like, am I just eating for that initial, like the flavor or that hit of sugar? Is it an addiction? Like, by far, eating has been in my life like my biggest addiction, because I was looking for it. I was looking to it for something it was never going to give me.
And we'll be right back with the second half of the interview after a quick word from our sponsor. Stay tuned.
Today's episode is brought to you by Banyan Botanicals. My friends at Banyan are offering us 20% off their products for summer, including their Healthy Pitta and their Pitta Digest and their Pitta Massage Oil, all of which I look forward to using as it heats up here in Wyoming. So to get that coupon, go to yogahealthcoaching.com/Banyan, BANYAN. And you can get all sorts of great pitta reducing products for summer. So again, yogahealthcoaching.com/Banyan will get you 20% off.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was the way I was eating. So I would always be eating on the run or while I was working, doing paperwork, or while I was at my computer, like not really being mindful and thinking about what I'm putting in my mouth, how much I'm putting in my mouth. And am I like seated and grounded and really like needing that food? You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
just and eating in my car, like everything I was doing around food was just not a good habit. And so once I changed that completely, and like you said, the time of day and having that biggest meal for lunch and having something small for dinner. Once I got that really squared away, it just really was so easy after that for me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. Because it's like now I can hear what my body's calling for. I wasn't able to hear it before because it was like so, I don't know, like foggy or clogged up, right? I was just running on like getting my next hit or stuffing down the feelings. And so I feel like my story speaks to like emotional eaters, because I was a bit like I was really looking for something from food that I wasn't going to get from food, right? Like actual groundedness. I needed to stop and breathe and just be in my body, even like for a minute here and there throughout the day. If I can stop and do a check-in, it's like, how am I doing? What happened this morning that I just need to be present with and move on from, so that it's not making the next decision when I actually have to go and nourish my body, that it's not coming from an emotional place. And so really, like I said, it wasn't. And I was so obsessed before with like what I ate and calorie counters and getting apps on my phone and and it was always externally led. It was like, you can only do this. You have to stay within these lines. And what I learned in those first few weeks of Body Thrive was, no, you're actually going to sit and listen and hear the the indicators of hunger, true hunger, and then getting through my sugar addiction. Or and by sugar I mean like sugar, wheat, dairy, alcohol, coffee loaded with whatever, all these things that were like creating like this spike and crash. Being able to get through that and then hear the true cravings of my body. And I don't need to eat a lot. And there's a piece there too, like culturally, where if you're not eating, people are like, oh, why aren't you eating? You have an eating disorder. Like, actually, no, when I was eating a ton, I had an eating disorder because I went through, when I was in university, I was binging and throwing up. So people wouldn't have seen it as an eating disorder because they just saw me eating all the time. And now I find when I go out for lunch, I'm like, no, I'm good. Or not lunch, but maybe dinner. It depends. It depends on whether I've had, if I'm going through, I do intermittent fasting now. So it might be a day where I'm not eating a whole lot. But people will question it and be like, oh, how come you're not eating? And it's like, I'm just listening to my body and I'm not hungry. I'm actually super thirsty, or I want I crave mint a lot and cilantro and like cooling foods. Cause I have that, like I'm pitta, not that anybody can tell. And so it's like and throughout the different seasons, right? Like being able to notice like, oh, actually when I move through spring and summer, I'd require very little food and I have better cognitive ability. And when I cannot stuff my face and mute the messages from my body and I can hear them really clearly, I actually find that I function way better on way less food, where my brain is, my cognitive function is higher, my communication is more clear and crisp, I make more sense, I'm linear as opposed to all over the map. And it's just progressively getting better. And I still slip, or I still go back to, while I was away, I was telling you earlier, I was in California at a workshop and there was this food and cakes and, I thought, oh, won't be so bad. I'll have some. And it's like instantly I can feel it. I can feel the sugar coursing through my veins. I feel the crash later. I feel the hangover the next day. But now I have the contrast where I can see, okay, when I'm listening to my body, when I'm not eating heavy dinners and I get really good rest, the decisions that I make are more in alignment with like who I truly am and who I truly want to be and my greatest potential. So yeah, I lost a ton of weight. And I've kept it off, which I think is important to say. I threw out all my, we'll call them fat clothes. We call it business Grace, because business Grace was no fun. She was I threw out all my business clothes because now I'm full-time yoga, full-time teaching yoga and teaching courses and doing the yoga health coaching. And I'm not going back. And you can't, right? Would you agree? Like once you do it, once you learn it and you see it and you feel it, there might be a slip. There might be a day or a week or whatever, but it's like, as soon as I start to feel like shit again, I'm like, ooh, what do I got to do to get back on the horse, like get back on track?
Yeah. And it's so easy to get back on track now because we know what to do. Whereas before it would take, days or weeks to get back on track, right? Now it's like the next morning you're like, I'm back on track.
Absolutely. Well, because it's like, it's internally led. It's just kind of like, I crave it because I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that fog. Like, even when I was in California and I was kind of eating crappy food, it was like, oh, this isn't good, right? Like I can't feel my true inner. For me, it's like the desire. Like when I start to get foggy, I lose my self-confidence. I start to have a lot of self-doubt. The thoughts change and they become really, they tell a lot of lies. Like you're not good enough. You can't do this stuff. Who did you think you were to, be able to teach this and to lead this? And I can instantly be like, oh, that's that crappy food I ate yesterday. Because none of that's true. And now I've had enough time kind of on the bright side of things, on feeling light and clear. And I feel like, I move differently in my body, even the way that I show up, my expressiveness, I have a different posture. I walk differently, because I'm not weighted down. Like all of that weight, it was like keeping me, stuck inside myself, if that makes sense. It was like I was wearing a disguise or a bodysuit, and I couldn't really move in integrity. I couldn't move the way that like Grace really wanted to move and show up and be present in the world. So yes, this is a weight loss story, I suppose, but it's so much more. And I have moments, honestly, Michele, where like I sit and this is funny, but like I've put a little collage together of like my transformation, just so that like if I have days where I'm like, have I really turned a corner here? Have I put in the work? Am I doing it? I can go back and look at how unrecognizable I am now compared to what I used to look like, how bright my eyes are, the true shape of my face, and, to see my true smile and my cheekbones and the dimple in my chin, and only one chin as opposed to.
I do that too. I don't have it put together as organized as you, but I'll look back through pictures and I can see, the light in my eye looks different and the smile on my face looks different. And like you said, seeing your cheekbones is a big deal when you've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so like, I'm trying to think of, I know that I've said a lot, and I'm trying to think of what really made the difference for me in terms of my transformation was certainly having some measurables. So like, you're going to try this and you're going to see how you feel. Here are these steps. We're going to start with the evening habits. And what did I think that eating late or going to bed early, I did not think that was going to make that big of a difference in my weight or in my overall health. And I wasn't giving enough attention to what I was doing in the evening. And most of my bad habits were in the evening. That's when the heavy food was. That's when the alcohol, like the glass of wine or two was, which was causing me to have really, disrupted sleep. But the accountability too to the community, like being able to go to the forum and celebrate my successes and have people be like, oh my gosh, yes, awesome, way to go. And then also to be able to go to the forum and be like, oh, I did this. During the last cleanse, it was like, oh, had a day over the Easter weekend, because that was the 3rd anniversary of my dad's passing, and I like ate hot dogs the whole day. And I went to the forum and I was like, I fell off the wagon, I ate hot dogs, and then it was like, but I'm gonna get back on track, and here are the steps I'm gonna take to get back on track. And everyone was so supportive, and it just is a place to really, it's like crystallizing. It's like there's a place where I can go and I can write to people and be seen and heard. And I don't know that I would be here where I am now, standing at 5'3" and 145 pounds, if I didn't have you guys, like if I didn't have the support of the group, if I didn't have people who cared about me becoming the person that I wanted to be.
Yeah, the community that we've all created together is so amazing, and there's just no judgment. Like, we all know that we all go through it, and no one does it perfectly. And I think that's a big thing to remind people, even when we teach our own groups, is to remind the students, you're not going to do it perfectly. No one does. Don't worry about a slip here and there, right? It's getting back on quickly and having that, body knowledge. Your body knows, and it can get back on track so quickly now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I always even say to my own students, it's begin again. It's how good you get at getting back on the horse. And I'm all about like visuals and imagery. So it's like the first few times you go to get on a horse, you look like a complete idiot or fool. You know what I mean? Like you're awkward. You don't know where to put your foot. But then the more you get up on the horse, the better you get at it, and the faster it becomes, and the more it's like you don't even think about it. And for me, that's where I'm at. It's like, had a kind of a weekend or a week of debauchery, and now I know exactly the steps I need to take. And for me, it's like tons of water, getting some good fat, and hitting the greens, and even a little bit of movement, right? That little bit of movement just is like, get the energy moving again. When my energy's moving through my body, I find that I can hear what I truly want and what I truly need. Like the communication lines are open. So for anybody listening that has struggled with, losing weight and gaining weight and losing weight, or losing some and not being able to keep it off, to me, the habits for me, it was like, it gave me the power back. It's self-led, and it's my body speaking to me and me being able to hear it and knowing exactly what I need to do. And it's not coming externally from someone else saying, okay, you have to do this and you have to do this. And learning all of the habit change tools, absolutely, hands down, has given me more value than I could ever imagine. Because now every time I learn something new, I know the steps I need to take to actually incorporate it into my life on a permanent basis. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be amazing at it or perfect at it, like you said. It's that I know how to make progress, and I know how to track it and go like, oh yeah, okay, when I do this, I feel this way, and that's a huge reward. And I'm going to keep on taking little baby steps to get to where I want to be, to get to where I know how I want to feel.
That pretty much sums it up.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this. It's been incredible for me, and I feel like a different person. I look like a different person. My life is very different. 2 years post Body Thrive, and it's just getting better.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your story. I think so many people can relate to that. To a lot of the things that you were talking about in the beginning, and to hear your story is such an inspiration. So thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Michele.
Bam! That is today's episode of the Yoga Health Coaching Podcast.
And remember, the conversations you tune into attune your consciousness.
Thanks for choosing to tune in with us.